meteorology lab here on April 4th, and we got a little bit of bug activity outside. A very mild, I would say absent winter has allowed for quite a bit of bugs to come out early, and usually we don't see these June bugs until about late May, mid or late May, so they're about 40-50 days early. The warm weather continues, and we've even got thunderstorms appearing once again in eastern Oklahoma and southwestern Missouri right there. Next system coming out of the Pacific, and that's just emerged onto the plains. And we can take a quick look at that on AWIPS. And there's that big trough. So basically this is California off here to the left side. Down here is Mexico, southern border, runs something like that, and then the Gulf of Mexico down in that region. So here's Texas, and as you might guess, polar front jet is going to be in this channel. Let me pick a different color here. Yeah, it's going to be in this channel here to the right of this cyclonic vorticity here. Now this is 18Z, so this was a little bit earlier today. So that's where things were, and you can see at the time the strongest upward dynamics were focusing on western Oklahoma. So that's where the cap is being removed. That's where we have mass divergence at the surface, or convergence at the surface, and frontogenesis. So by, let's see, what time is this? 19. Okay, there's 0Z right there. So you can see things have pushed eastward into northeast Oklahoma, southwestern Missouri. And while we're at it, let's just take a look at the run here. This is the NAM from 18Z. I'll zoom out a little bit here. Okay, so by tomorrow morning, we're going to see that low kind of kick eastward to the Mississippi Valley. So here's Missouri right here. Upper level low over Missouri once again, like almost a week ago. And the polar front jet kind of steamrolls over Texas, right like that. And this little vorticity lobe here affecting North Texas. So can't completely rule out precipitation here overnight. Then by tomorrow, when we do the webcast, well, I'll freeze it right here. This is 20Z, so this is about 3 p.m. And we see a very large vorticity lobe here. This is all indicative of strong lift affecting the mid-Mississippi Valley out towards Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky. And that's going to move pretty quickly eastward. So this is by the time we do the weathercast. And then by the overnight hours, there it goes into Georgia and eastern Tennessee there, and behind it, large jet sweeping in from the north. So that should cool things down quite a bit. Okay, so we've seen this. This is the quick look at the watches and warnings. And here's what we have for thunderstorms. A couple of cells moving in right around Springfield down to the northwest Arkansas corridor in here, almost to Fort Smith. And so these cells, they don't look particularly severe. There is a little bit of a discrete appearance. You can see that. 3 main clusters here. Sorry, this is off the top of the screen. 3 main clusters here around Fayetteville. Then we move north up to Missouri, and these definitely look a little bit stronger. So we've got the kidney bean shape here, got kind of an HP-ish look, and same thing up here to the north. So these would be probably 2 discrete cells. And if we start losing some of the weaker cells with loss of heating, it's possible some of these may go away. It depends on how much capping we have here, so we shall see. But I'm sure there's some storm chasers out there on Interstate 44 there. And since this is very close to the radar, this is a good opportunity to look at base velocity. I really need to change this color scheme. I really don't I really don't like this scheme here. But I can see a green inbounds into the radar. So the values I'm getting, and let me set this up where you can see it. So here's the actual velocity, here's the maximum unambiguous velocity. So we're looking at that number right there. I'm going to set the cursor on Interstate 44 where the max winds are. We've got about 50 knots inbound and about 33 to 50. So that's about 60 miles an hour. Now that doesn't necessarily translate to strong winds at the surface because you can see we're a couple hundred feet off the ground. But that can be kind of representative of what kind of gusts you may be seeing in this area here. So maximum winds right here, I'm going to put a dot right there. And we can see, looks like outflow. So probably an outflow boundary set up just like that. And we may see it on the spectrum width. And again, we may not. You don't always see it all the time, but in fact, there's a little bit of range folding there. But I'm reasonably sure that that outflow boundary is there, kind of like right along this line right here. And when you get this range folding here, messing up your radar scan, a lot of times you can just go up to the next tilt, and this will help you out. So near the surface, outflow boundary here, and then a little higher, up at about 1,600 to 800 feet maybe, the outflow boundary is a little bit further back. And that's because if we look at it vertically, in fact, let me set up a cross section for you. That's a quick cross section along this line. And if this is the surface here on this bottom line, the outflow boundary is going to tend to have kind of a shape like that, kind of like a foot appearance. So you're going to find the furthest extent of the outflow boundary down at the bottom, and then up a little bit higher that will usually be a little bit closer to the storm, kind of like that right there. But look at that, a little bit of overhang that appears. So let's check that out. We're going to go back to Interstate 44 and check out this area here. And let's see, I got a couple different times here. But we've got this little feature right here that is a little bit suspect. And let me look at the big picture. Looks like maybe a little bit of an RFD, perhaps. So I'm sitting here kind of getting an idea of the structure of the storm. Go back to the... I'm going to go ahead and pull up the storm relative velocity. And let me set a vector on that at about maybe 240 at... I'm just going to go with 15 for now. That looks pretty decent right there. Okay, so we don't really exactly see, well, we see a little bit of what looks like maybe a rotational couplet right here. See this right here, this is outbound, and this is inbound. So this is painting kind of like a little bit of maybe a little mezzo right there, and I'll put a dot right there. Come back to the reflectivity, and that's right in the middle of this, what's probably an updraft base right over the radar site. And we should really go up to higher tilts when we're this close to the radar. Because you can see here, we're still only up at about 500 feet. So you got to really go up to some of the higher tilts to look at the structure of the storm in the mid-levels. But I'd be willing to bet here, yeah, here it is. Here's that overhang right here. Just wondering what was going on there. Only captured by the higher tilts there. So probably a pretty good updraft base right over the radar site, and probably some good footage there. Okay, and we'll come back to that in a little bit, and let me move on, and we'll go to the big global picture. And before I do that, let me take a look at the chat. And I see YouTube has changed the chat interface a little bit. So let me fix that real quick. Okay, let's see who we got tonight. We've got Andrew and Victor. And Victor, I apologize. I'm trying to get your pictures on, but I'm telling you, I'm like running around with my head cut off here. I had to do a whole bunch of errands today, but I think tomorrow's going to be a lot more relaxed and I'll be able to catch up. And I did get my email caught up last night and talked to a lot of you on there, but I'm still a little bit behind. Sue M is here, and Kevin McKinney, Jason Boggs is here, and Mike Estwick checking in, Eddie W, Jumping Flash, Michael Burrell, and Jeff Lockwood says, all eyes on the Alabama, Georgia, Florida Panhandle. Gulf Coast Southeast lock and load from Mike Estwick. Fun with Tech checking in there in Texas. Ron Chalfont in Southern California. And Ron says, Tim broke 1,000 subscribers. That's excellent. Hey, I had no idea that we broke 1,000. And I'm going to tell you something. I try to avoid looking at numbers like that because you get kind of caught up into worrying about what other YouTubers are doing and how much better they're doing and stuff like that. And I prefer to kind of put that out of my mind and just focus on the webcast. So I try to avoid a lot of those metrics for the time being. Sarah Wood, there in Indiana, another rainy day, but it cleared up this evening. Chance of snow tonight. Wow. Chance of snow. We haven't even been down to the 30s here in about 2 months. Kevin McKinney says webcast is on. Mike Estwick is getting no audio. Jason Boggs is getting audio. Let me just kind of reading through this. Ray Woody talking about West Georgia tomorrow. And let me put out a quick message here to ask if anybody is having audio problems. I think everybody's okay because I don't see a mob on there. But all right, we'll get back to the weathercast here, and you can see we've got a pretty active southern stream in place. And by southern stream, talking about this flow here from Arizona to Texas out to the Atlanta area. And that's contrasted with a northern stream, which at this time is probably way up in Canada like this. So this is how the trough looked at 12Z this morning out over Colorado, and we saw by 18Z it was coming into northwest Oklahoma, so it's moving pretty quickly, and it will be in this area around Georgia tomorrow. Here's the infrared satellite imagery. I was going to try to get an animation going there. And there it comes. I wanted to look at some of the overshooting tops on this activity. And there we go. We can see kind of like a linear appearance to this area of cells, stretching there from west of Springfield through Fort Smith. And it looks like the tail end goes all the way down to about McKinney and Sherman. And we can also see a few cells off the coast of Florida right there. Okay, we'll take a look at the thermal analysis, and now we can see a very distinct cold front coming from where that line of thunderstorms is through Dallas to Midland, out to Deming, New Mexico, and behind it a pretty good push of cold air advection. And then on the other side we have this warm front. So this is one thing we have to watch later tonight. If there's any chance that this area of thunderstorms is going to intensify, we have to watch this area of backed winds just north of the front. So anyway, that'll be shifting eastward overnight. And let's take a look at a couple soundings. What are we going to see at Springfield? Springfield, did they get their balloon up before the storms hit? Looks like they did. This is just after 0Z. So this ought to be kind of interesting. We pull up Springfield. We check the time here, 0Z. So this is the environment just ahead of that line of storms. So it's showing some marginal moisture down at the surface. This is about 13 Celsius dew points. That's going to be about 57, 55 degrees. And a little bit of dry air above that. So that's not too good. Have some high relative humidities here, so maybe some altocumulus layers. And above that, it looks like most of our steep lapse rates are above 15,000 in this area here. So where is our lifted parcels going to come from? I don't know. This on a day like today, it could be either surface-based or elevated. But I think our elevated layers are going to look like this. Surface-based layers are going to look maybe like that. So, yeah, surface has probably a slight edge on that. And then our parcels from a surface lift, it's going to look like that. So, I don't know. That cape doesn't look all that impressive, to tell you the truth. So that might be kind of a negative factor for this evening. Okay, we'll take a look at Norman. And we've got to think about where Norman is. And we know, having done the analysis, that they're going to be just behind that line of showers. So probably back in the cold air mass. So there's Norman. We do see a little bit of a cool layer near the surface. And some steeper lapse rates just above that. And it looks like the reason Norman is not getting any rain, some convective inhibition in the low layers right there. Okay, and then we'll take a look at Little Rock, because this line will be heading out there later tonight. And we see a lot of dry air above the surface. So this may be kind of a problem throughout the warm sector here. Most of the better moisture here near the surface. We got low 60s dew points, but dry air just above that. So to really get a look at this, we're going to need to look at the NAM and check out the 925 and 850 millibar dew points. That'll be kind of critical for forecasting this evening. Okay, we've already looked at the dynamics on AWIPS. I'll go ahead and skip the 850 for now, but there's the picture from SPC showing our line of thunderstorms there all the way down to around just east of McKinney, Texas. So this is our warm sector right here, and as we've seen, the main problem is shallow moisture through this area here. So let's get an idea of just how extensive that dry air problem is. We're going to go to Pivotal Weather, and we're going to pull up their NAM model. And I'm going to set this up for the south central U.S. I don't know, I thought about Ohio Valley. That may be just a little bit too far east. Okay, then the product that we're going to pull up here is under upper air moisture. It's going to be these products here. And I'm going to start with 925. That's going to be close to about 2,200 feet or so above sea level. So what I'm looking at is the shading. So as you can see, when we pick up the turquoise, we're up at about 60 degrees, and then purples are going to be near 70 Fahrenheit. So what do we got ahead of our storm area? There's 0Z. There's no turquoise in this area, so we've got dew points in the 50s and possibly the 40s. Let's see, what's the color for 50s? It's going to be the darker green. Okay. So we'll pull up the chart for right now. Again, we're looking at 925 millibars just above the surface. And we can see we've got 50s dew points in this area right here. And then further to the south over south central Arkansas, looks like lots of 40s. So that's not too good there in terms of generating severe weather. There's 03. And now we start bringing up the deeper moisture. We can see that coming out of Louisiana and southern Mississippi later tonight after about 3 in the morning. And that'll come into phase with the front. See, there it is coming through Little Rock. And when those two combine, that's probably when we're going to have a greater risk of severe weather. And there you can see it coming together right there tomorrow morning. Okay, so that's kind of how you go about analyzing the moisture. So you can see on the soundings we've got moisture problems near this line, but that'll be fixed tomorrow where this deeper moisture comes northward. And let's look at 850. This is up at 5,000 feet. Okay, we'll run this forward. Okay, there's right now, looks like lots of 40s at 850 and even 30s and 20s out in this area. And then you can see the deeper moisture down to the south. There it comes, surging northward through Jackson at about 3 in the morning. And that catches up to the surface front area towards daybreak. And that's when our chances of severe weather will start going up. Okay, so let's see. We know we've got a severe weather risk problem in the southeast, so I'm going to switch this sector over. And the chart that I'm going to be interested in tomorrow is going to be surface dew point. So let's pull that up real quick. And while that's loading, I'm going to also pull up the precip chart. And we'll see what the NAM is going for in terms of precip area. Because let's be realistic, the models are going to handle tomorrow's coverage of the thunderstorms better than I can guess at it. So we're going to go with this. So we can see tomorrow. Okay, there you go. You can see 9Z, 3 in the morning. This is when the deeper moisture surges northward to Jackson and Birmingham. And now 9 in the morning, start to get a little bit of heating. And we see storms starting to break out right there in western Alabama. Then as the morning goes on, 15Z, then noon. So there's an area of storms right there, and this looks like maybe a cluster of storms north of Atlanta. And now towards 4 p.m. in evening, we've got the full effect of diurnal heating. So possibly some severe weather action here from east of Atlanta down to Columbus, Georgia, down to Pensacola. Then it looks like by 0Z, the model wants to kind of get rid of some of that activity, except in the deeper moisture, and then it goes for a second area back behind it. So I don't know where that's coming from. Maybe the arrival of some upper level energy along the cold front itself. Okay, so that's how things look, and other than that, just looks like a lot of cold air pushing to the south out over Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Okay, so I think we're ready to take a look at the forecast. Let me back this up real quick. Okay, and before we go any further, I'm going to take a look at the chat. And my voice is drying out, so give me a second. Okay, we'll see how that goes. All right, let me take a look. Yeah, we need to check out the radar and see what that's showing for Springfield. Okay, everybody's getting good audio. Very good. Tom Copeland asking about the severe weather threat for Georgia. For Virginia. Yeah, I think as that system continues to progress eastward, we're going to see that move into the Virginia area by the day after tomorrow, so Thursday. So there is going to be some potential then, and we're about to take a look at that. But the more detailed analysis is probably going to wait till tomorrow for Virginia. Fun with Tech mentioned Springfield, Missouri Skywarn reporting high winds, hail of 3/4 inch, and 1 funnel cloud by a spotter. Nothing on the ground. Okay, that's certainly fortunate. And Mike Estwick says snowing again in Denver. All right. Okay, yeah, we'll take one quick look at Texas because Dr. Wells was asking about that, and we do have that front pushing through Texas. I'm just going to kind of go with the model real quick to just kind of show you what we may be seeing. So there's the front pushing southward through Texas right now. There's the squall line just ahead of it. And we see things are going to progress rapidly eastward into Arkansas. So maybe only an isolated chance later this evening over northeast Texas along Interstate 30. But that cold front is going to push pretty quickly southward, already down to Tyler and Austin and Junction by midnight. And then that'll clear all of Texas by tomorrow. We'll be under northerly flow. So pretty cut and dry there for Texas. Elsewhere around the country, overnight you can see that system moving eastward. So about 6 in the morning, we're going to be looking at the cold front kind of like that. Warm front up in the Ohio Valley. And looks like the convection not quite in phase with the better moisture. And as I've shown you, better moisture located right here. So the cold front not quite caught up to that there. So nocturnal cooling is going to kind of take a toll during the overnight hours. But a little bit of lift from isentropic ascent back in this area, so probably some stratiform, or I should say embedded activity there in Illinois overnight. Okay, for tomorrow, by the time we do the webcast, it's going to be looking like this. Looks like the cold front is going to be kind of shaped like that, coming in Atlanta. Bit of a squall line out ahead of it. And then an occlusion over Indiana right in this area here. And then things will push into part of Virginia overnight, and the rest of it will move off the coast. So I think the best chance for severe weather is going to be probably early Thursday morning in Virginia, kind of in this area. So this may be kind of like an MCS moving through that area. Elsewhere, lots of cold air advection moving south through the central U.S. Kind of a low-key nor'easter out over the northeast right there. High pressure across Texas later this week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we look westward at the next front coming in. There it is right there. So lots of precip back behind it. This is the classic Anna front. And not only Anna front, we've also got some cold core convection out around the Portland area. So this is Saturday morning here, into a Sunday. Yeah, Saturday evening and Saturday morning into Sunday. And then finally, the front makes it into New Mexico and the plains by Sunday. Looks like a little bit of moisture making it northward to where the front is, starting on Sunday evening. So yeah, we're breaking out some thunderstorms Sunday into Monday, and looks like even Monday night, squall line there in Texas along this inverted trough. So at this point, I'm pretty much just model casting and looking at this active southern stream. Looks like that just continues. Big active jet across the southern U.S., bringing in a series of waves through Texas, Arkansas, Tennessee, and the southeast. And then by the 13th and 14th, looks pretty quiet, and then we get our next shot of some precip in Texas on the weekend of the 15th and 16th. Okay, so that is pretty much the forecast there. And I'm trying to avoid going into too much detail, because if I do that, it's probably going to put a lot of you to sleep. I'm just kind of focusing on the more important weather systems we're going to be looking at over the next week or two. So basically, to summarize, next chance of thunderstorms here in Texas, we're going to be looking at Sunday and Monday after this weekend. Okay, that's probably about all I got here. I'll take one more look at the chat. Kevin McKinney, glad his house insurance is in good order with the storms in southeast Tennessee tomorrow night. Yeah, we'll definitely be looking at that tomorrow. Dr. Wells says Dallas barely hit with any severe weather this spring. Yeah, that's true. I've seen very little except what we had on Sunday. So much better than the Weather Channel. Yeah, back in the 90s, I mean, this is what I wished we had for the Weather Channel. We needed one for the technical people. Do the usual general forecast and pick one or two things and spend 10 or 15 minutes on each going forward, from Mike Estwick. Yeah, that's kind of what we do indeed. I did want to mention, everybody, I did get some Patreon donations, and I really appreciate it. Ryan Toomey's, Ron Chalfant, and Steve Witt, some nice donations from them. And also from Andrew Klope and John Huntington, some donations from them. Definitely appreciate it, and that's definitely helping me to focus on this instead of on the programming and book writing, which also needs to be done. I just wish there were more hours in the day. But anyway, that's our forecast for this evening, and that's probably about all I've got. I appreciate you all watching, and we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll cover that outbreak in the southeastern U.S. Should be interesting. Okay, take care, guys.